If you add up all the college student loan debt in the United States, it stands at $1.4 trillion with a T. That's more than Americans owe on their credit cards or car loans or just about anything else except their homes. This month, as students begin deciding which universities they'll attend in the fall, families increasingly want more proof that the high costs of a college degree are worth it. Beyond graduation rates, they're looking for data on job placement rates and salaries.
Welcome to Age of the Obsolete, the weekly podcast that examines the intersection of technology, democracy, and the future of work. I'm your host, John Rovito. The first thing I can remember my mother telling me was that I was going to college. Neither she nor my father had graduated high school, and she was determined that for me, it would be different. My success would be their success, a fulfillment of what for most working-class families was the American dream, upward mobility with each generation surpassing the one that preceded it. But it wasn't easy. For my parents, putting a child through college far more than putting money aside for each paycheck. For my father, it meant working overtime and weekends, often 12, sometimes 15 hours a day. My mother, in turn, had to scrimp and save on everything, never allowing herself the slightest luxury. I understood the sacrifice they were making, so I studied, took the test, first to a preparatory high school, then to college, and afterwards graduate school. Was my parents' sacrifice worth it? I believe it was. For me, a college education grounded in both science and the humanities enriched my life by broadening my understanding of the world. Not only did it endow me with the critical thinking necessary for success in any profession, but it also exposed me to different ideas, peoples, histories, and cultures that, at least I hope, made me a more rounded individual. The problem is that most students have little interest in the non-quantifiable aspects of a college education. Instead, their motivation, as well as the motivation of their parents, lies solely in them getting a good job, and for good reason. One of the key tenets underlying the American dream is that we are all given the opportunity to succeed, and that the proven path to success is a college education. Yet today, many are questioning the value of college. Not just recent graduates, but business leaders such as Silicon Valley entrepreneur Peter Thiel, who explains to CBS 60 Minutes,
"We have a bubble in education like last decade. Everybody believed you had to have a house and they'd pay whatever it took. Today, everybody believes that we need to go to college and people will pay whatever it takes."
You've described college administrators as the subprime mortgage lenders, in other words, con men. You think
not all of them, but certainly the for-profit schools, the less good colleges are like the subprime lenders, where people are being conned into thinking that this credential is the one thing you need to do better in life, and they're actually not any better off after having gone to college. They typically are worse off because they've amassed all this debt.
You think if the bubble bursts, it's a good thing?
I don't think bubbles bursting are ever good things. I think they are inevitable things.
Is Peter Thiel correct? College graduates, we're told, earn more than high school graduates. And the claim, according to the U.S. Department of Education, the wages of college-educated workers have steadily increased over the past 2 decades, while the annual salaries for those with only a high school education have decreased. The National Center for Education Statistics analyzes employee earnings by education. Its findings indicate that in 2015, adults with a high school diploma earned only $23,900, while those with bachelor degrees took home more than double, on average $48,000 a year. As of January 2017, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that the unemployment rate for college graduates was only 2.5%. This is half the unemployment rate of those with high school degrees and 1/3 the unemployment rate of those without a high school degree. But while the numbers are encouraging, they're counterbalanced by other statistics. According to Money magazine, for example, it can take a recent college grad up to 9 months to find a job. Other sources placed the time frame at over a year. When PBS looked at the problem, the graduates they interviewed confirmed these numbers.
So happy. You get to a point where you're completely ready to move on.
Carolyn Gear was on the dean's list, had 2 internships, a part-time job, and a long list of extracurriculars. But when she graduated in May with a degree in public relations from New York's Hofstra University, the one thing she didn't have was a job.
It'd be easy. Coming out of school, everyone always told me, you'd be fine. And then, you realize you're really not fine. There's not much out there.
How many resumes did you send out?
Definitely sent over 100. I would say like 150 resumes out.
Out of all those resumes you sent, how many did you actually hear back from?
1.
Just hear back from?
1.
Just 1?
Yeah, saying the job was filled.
But even more troubling than the time it takes to find a job is a survey conducted by the Federal Reserve Bank, which reveals that between 30 and 40% of college graduates are presently underemployed. The survey defines underemployment as college graduates working in occupations that don't require a degree. I'm always suspicious of surveys and statistics, knowing how easily the numbers can be made to support whatever predetermined answer you're looking for. But based on my own experience, I tend to side with the bank's report. Several months ago, I needed to hire a team of telemarketers. Because the ad I ran specified that the work was part-time and the pay rate $15 an hour, I expected the bulk of the response to be from college students who wanted a job with flexible hours to match their class schedules. Instead, I received more than 200 resumes, not from students, but from college graduates. As I parsed the resumes, I saw that almost every one of the candidates had an excellent grade. All of them were currently working at what are best described as low-level jobs, none of which required a college education. Conducting the interviews, I found almost all of the candidates to be intelligent, articulate, and highly motivated, yet none of them had been able to find work that matched their level of education. Most had degrees in business. Some had been looking for more than 3 years. What struck me most wasn't the pent-up frustration they all must have felt, but the total lack of return both they and their parents were getting from their college investment. How much of an investment? The College Board reports that the average cost of an in-state public college for the 2016-2017 academic year was $24,610. The price tag for a private college came in just under $50,000. So much so that the total outstanding student debt in the United States is currently $1.2 trillion. Today, nearly 40 million Americans now hold student loans, with close to 70% of bachelor degree recipients graduating in the red. Still, it would be easy to dismiss these numbers as high but manageable if students were graduating into solid jobs with good salaries. That argument falls away, however, when you take into account not only the current statistics regarding underemployment, but the fact that since the financial meltdown of 2008, more than 9 million net new jobs created in the U.S. have been for part-time, freelance, or contract work. The pundits call it a gig economy and applaud the opportunity it gives newly minted graduates to pick and choose from a variety of jobs. I doubt, however, that either the students or parents who sacrifice to pay for their child's college education share the same enthusiasm.
All these people with degrees, we feel desperate. We want to feel fulfilled. We want to feel like we're needed.
I'm concerned about the future in terms of that gig economy and the lack of benefits. I feel that's a huge problem.
Every job should allow people to build a life instead of scrambling from one form of employment to another. We owe.
This is John Revito saying thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions or want additional information on any of the topics covered in these podcasts, please go to our website at ageoftheobsolete.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.